I've been struggling lately. I've been struggling with the issue of posting a video that explains the meaning and the scope of absolute sex. The last time I struggled with a video like this, it took me pretty much 10 or 11 months to gather not only the content of the video, which is more external, but more internal things like, if I'm trying to have a heart-to-heart connection with a certain audience, which audience is that? And since I'm in the position to talk to mankind in general and talk to unificationists specifically, it's hard to know who will find this video more useful. So I think that's a more internal issue. Or I could do to whom it may concern type of video and just talk as if I'm speaking to my second self. But I'm kind of weird, so, maybe there's not a lot of people like me, Anyway, it's been really hard knowing how to begin, so I'll just begin here and see how it goes. Everyone everywhere is trying to attain happiness. And if you're really trying to understand how to be happy, because you don't want to waste this limited time you have here on earth, you don't want to waste it, and you start pulling on that thread. What does it mean to be happy? What is worthwhile chasing in the interest of eventually being happy? The divine principle says our desires are fulfilled and then we become happy. But we don't understand desire. Okay, that's why some of the desires that we chase make us only short-term happy, but long-term miserable. That's what the divine principle says. So then you have to learn the difference between wholesome or good desires and evil desires. And that's been not just your problem, that's been the problem of mankind. So there have been different philosophers and even religions that have started up and gave contributions. Some people reject those contributions. For every assertion that someone makes, there's someone who struggles with the prescription. If I say, oh, take Tylenol for a headache, there's somebody who's hating Tylenol and says no, Advil, or no, just drink a lot of fluids for a headache. For every prescription there's some naysayer, which makes everything more complicated, which is why being a naysayer, even though I've been known to be one myself, the buck doesn't stop at naysayers. You have to endure them or ignore them, but shoot your shot and give it your best, and this is my best. As I pulled on the thread of what leads to happiness, some of the nodes of realization that I have come across, it's like, by nodes, I mean you're pulling on a rope, and there are knots in the rope, like heavy issues that you realize. And so I'm pulling on this rope called curiosity or ontological study. And I'm like, okay, I'm trying to understand which desires to temper, which ones are damn near impossible to satiate and whatnot. And, which desires are, personally my struggles and universal struggles. And so it seems that universally people struggle with getting up in the morning, as Jordan Peterson said, making your bed every morning, stuff like that, just basic personal maintenance, diet, what you eat, especially when your body starts to slow down and it doesn't metabolize everything like when you were young and you had 2.7 times more testosterone than older men, and your body starts slowing down. You got to really think that your desires are getting you in trouble. Okay, You're not in high school with a gym class every day and you got to push yourself. Okay, your desire to stay in bed. Sure, we all know that. Just to maintain a physique, you got to battle desires. If somebody introduced you to drugs, God forbid, now you've developed a desire for a drug that wasn't even there before. It's better never to even start doing drugs, because once you know the flavor of it, you're going to now have to battle that desire. But one of the things in my family history, is the question of, sexual desire. Is there a box, a proper cage to put that animal in, okay? Sexual desire. And the answer is yes. But that particular desire, divine principle says, is, central to the difference between heaven and hell. It is the critical desire to tame. And then, okay, you hear all these people like atheists, and anti-religious types talking about, they marginalize the whole, puritanical quest to, control sex as nothing more than a cultish observance of, the opinions of old dead men who founded religions, right? So it's nothing more than that. But is it really? Apparently not. Okay, because even sociological science is affirming what's been in the Bible and in many religious texts about sexual desire for a long time. It's affirming that by studying what happens when we are promiscuous. What happens to our ability to stay in relationships? Well, say you don't care. You just, freedom means move wherever you want. You want to get out of a relationship, get out of a relationship. Yeah, but if you want to get out of a relationship that you started where you had children already, no consequence? Well, sociological data is showing that there's a consequence. Basically, let me skip through this. Both religion and science agree that being cavalier with your sexual life and sexual organ is bad, not only for you, your partner, your resulting children, but because it's bad for your children in a certain way, basically making your children more psychopathic to have your family broken, it's bad for society. But the Bible said that too, It said that there was a fruit that shouldn't be eaten. Divine principle says the fruit was sex. In the generation of Adam and Eve, their generation, they violated the sex, the prescription to control sex, right? The second generation, there was a murder. One brother kills another brother. Okay, so, how are you going to have a happy world if we're killing each other? Okay, so, when you talk about absolute sex, you are talking about the original concept of sex that wouldn't have led to psychological damage of children and families and intergenerational dissatisfaction between children who need love and the parents who haven't resolved themselves to love. On the one hand, you think of sex as some urge from your gonads down below to be rubbed and stimulated and then pop off in the orgasm. And then, what's the problem? Well, really, nothing's wrong with your plumbing. An orgasm always feels good. But an orgasm is typically in men related to the ejaculation of genetic information. And that ejaculation of genetic information coincides with, the making of humans. And if you don't respect the making of humans, then maybe you won't connect the dots because, maybe you don't connect the dots between your orgasm and ejaculation because no one in society talks about it. It's sort of like swept under the rug, topic. But how can you call yourself mature if the matter of making children happens by you, led by your body, mindlessly into the creation of humans. I mean, how can you say you're mature if you can create humans without even thinking about it in advance? I mean, if we have a culture where creating humans is always an afterthought led by orgasm, are we not just animals? So if you say we're just a human animal and there is no control of sexual desire, even if you think that it's admirable to think about the fate of the child before you copulate and have the child, you say, no, you should just surrender to our animal desires. Well, no. Wait a minute. How many times do we have to learn this lesson in human history that, sexual desire with no reins on it, with no control, with no steering wheel, with no conscious prescription on how to approach sex, leads to forms of degradation? I'm like, how many times do you have to? No, why would people, when they know that there's a difference, once your mind is open to the idea that controlling sex might make things better, why would you argue against that control? Why would you try to marginalize the people that promote the idea that there is a useful prescription to the matter of sex? Why would you try to marginalize those people? What the fuck is wrong with you? What the fuck was wrong with me before my mind was open? I'll tell you what was wrong with me, and I'll tell you what was wrong with you. I was a fucking animal, and you were a fucking animal, okay? And all levels of animal nature are bringing children into the world instead of human parents, the spirit of human parents, true human parents, being the cause of the very lives of the people that we're looking at. And if you say, I believe in a culture that espouses sexual self-control, then you believe human beings should be raised by mature humans. If you believe that, I suggest that, if you want to bag this girl, you want to bag this guy, just do it because you only live once, then whether you realize it or not, you're okay with what happens in the aftermath. You're okay with the fact that you're okay with the fact that children are raised by animals. You're okay with that. I don't actually think you're okay with that. I don't actually think you worship the sex organ so much that you knowingly want to risk the psychological stability of the future generations. So all of you people who promote, free sex, casual sex, sex without commitment, sex without borders and boundaries, I don't think you're trying to damage the children. Nope. I respect you enough to think you're not trying to damage the children. I think you're fucking immature. And you know what? All those voices, those professors in college, your homeboys, your homegirls that told you, go out there and get some ass, right? They were just as stupid as you. Maybe some percentage of them were so jaded and so wicked, your Satan level consciousness, that they just set you up to sabotage you. And it's beyond hate, because it doesn't just set you up. It sets your future children up to be brought into this world in a haphazard way. Okay? Whoever told you that sex was some sort of thoughtless process, okay, limited only to thinking about how good it's going to feel on that night, or how pretty the girl is, it solidifies your virility or your status as a man in society. Whoever told you that it's limited to all those things, they set you up. And you propagated that idea. So you set people up. And so I'm getting around to the concept of absolute sex. Absolute sex is what Reverend Moon clarified starting in 1989, is the concept of sex that God envisioned before he even created, even like before let there be light. Absolute sex is so far beyond this animalistic concept. You got to understand, the truth has now been unleashed. Because of God, because of Jesus, because of Reverend Moon, the truth has been revealed. Okay? You can't stop it. It's been uncorked. Mankind is learning that there's a difference between hell sex and heaven sex. Absolute sex is the original design of human sexuality. And it incorporates attitudes like the ones that would consider the children before you even forfeit your virginity. Okay? And because it considers the children, it cannot have a casual copulation. You cannot have a casual copulation with strangers. Every stranger that you might think you're going to have sex with is somebody you are committed to having a child with. Okay? And don't tell me about rubber, and don't tell me about science and technology. Okay? The stuff that's been invented in the last 10 years does not undo the nature of human sexuality. Okay? So, human sexuality in its natural form required, in lockstep with the human notion of parenting, it required proactive responsibility. Responsibility before copulation for the caretaking of the next generation. Okay? This is just a little taste of what absolute sex is. But you want a happy world. And I tell you, as I pulled on the thread of what is happiness, the opposite of misery. Where does misery come from? Okay? Where does feeling like my cup overfloweth come from? Where does the feeling of pessimism, psychological pessimism, you just never have enough, the glass is half empty, where does that come from? Answer? It comes from a mindset that's pretty much solidified in early childhood experiences. Can you be loved enough when you're a child so that you think your life is just dope? Yeah. Can you be ignored enough when you're a child such that you're in constant competition, willing to step over the people, step on people in order to get what you think is going to solve your psychological problem? Yeah. Can that debt begin because your parents had you by accident? Yes. I'm going to stop here. If you could digest what I said so far, good for you. But the concept of absolute sex ain't going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. It behooves you to digest what I talked about and go pray about it, because it's not going anywhere. And basically the world will be divided by people who can chew on these ideas and take responsibility for them, and those that can't. Let me tell you what's going to happen to the people that can't. You're going to get pushed off. You're going to get choked out, because people are not going to want to have give and take with you, your offspring, the criminal atmosphere that you allow to happen because you give birth and raise psychologically empty children. Okay? People are not just going to blame those children. People are going to be so clear about the fact that those kids probably didn't have to turn out that way, and they're going to look at the cause, and they're going to look at the people who have cavalier attitudes about doing the baby making thing. Okay? So we're not going backwards. Okay? We're not going backwards. And you're not going to round the enlightened people, the clear people up, the people who stand for the concept of true parentism. You're not going to like round us up and marginalize us. That shit ain't going to work. So it behooves you to like take notice. Okay? That's how deep absolute sex is. And I'm out.